We here on the channel love a good mystery, and there's not much more exciting than finding a hidden place somewhere you're not expecting it. Today, we're going to take a look into hidden places in popular spots all around the world. The secret room in the Statue of Liberty. Let's start off with a big one. Everyone all over the world, no matter where you're from, has heard of the Statue of Liberty. The super famous landmark was gifted to the United States by France and was unveiled as completed in October of 1886. The enormous statue is recognized as one of the symbols of America itself and represents the freedom that the people of America hold so dearly. The landmark is a massive tourist attraction, and the millions of tourists that visit New York each year will want to snap a photo of it. There's even a viewing area inside the statue's crown that visitors can reach by climbing a long staircase for the fantastic views. But everyone knows about that, right? Well, did you know that there is a second viewing platform inside the Statue of Liberty? This hidden platform is actually inside the torch that Lady Liberty has in her outstretched hand. When the statue was first opened to visitors, tourists were allowed inside, up a steep 50-foot ladder up the arm, onto the small platform to look out over New York. However, a bombing incident in 1916 damaged the arm, and wear and tear from tourists climbing it all day meant that the platform had to be sealed off from the public. It still exists for the caretakers of the statue to look after the torch, but the public haven't been allowed inside for over 100 years. The hidden apartment inside the Eiffel Tower. Seeing as we just covered a place inside of a gift from France to the United States, let's hop across the pond to look at a French landmark this time. The Eiffel Tower is possibly the most famous piece of French architecture to ever exist, and it has been in the city of Paris since 1889. Due to the nature of the structure, it looks pretty open, and you can basically see everything inside due to the huge metal beams with which it was built. However, did you know that the designer, Mr. Gustave Eiffel, built himself an apartment at the very top of the tower? On the third level of the Eiffel Tower, which is over 1,000 feet high above the City of Love, there's a small but comfortable apartment. The cozy living space is furnished simply, with warm carpets and soft chairs. It even has a piano. When the rich citizens of Paris heard about the apartment, they flocked to Mr. Eiffel with requests to visit it, even offering to pay him large sums of money to stay the night. But Eiffel always turned them down, preferring to keep his secret apartment just for himself and his closest friends in the scientific community. Famously, Thomas Edison was a visitor who gifted Gustave Eiffel with a camera. The apartment was completely sealed from public view until just a few years ago, and it is now visible to those who make a journey to the top of the tower. The smallest police station in the UK. Okay, so the UK's smallest police station is actually somewhere super popular and super busy, but we bet you could walk right by it without even realizing anything was there at all. In Trafalgar Square in London, UK, is what looks like a stone pillar with a door on it and a lantern on top. That's all. The door opens into a tiny room, only big enough for one officer to keep watch. The story goes that after the First World War, the London police wanted to renovate one of the old police boxes, but the public didn't want something so obvious standing out in the middle of the street. So the police force decided to use a big light fitting instead, making it much more subtle and fitting with the quaint streets. The stone box was constructed in Trafalgar Square, so a police officer could watch over the square in case of rioters or protesters, which were common at the time, and use a phone inside connected straight to Scotland Yard if there was any sign of trouble. Apparently, this tiny room could even fit 2 prisoners inside if needed. These days, though, you won't find an English bobby on the beat inside, just some brooms and cleaning supplies. It's now used as a cleaning cupboard for the Westminster City Council. The secret ballroom in the busiest train station in Australia. Okay, so Australia is an enormous country, and traveling all over means you have to get a lot of trains. The busiest of these train stations in the massive country is called Flinders Street Railway Station, and it is huge. The station itself takes up a lot of space, as the building is huge and extremely extremely impressive. The railway station itself is a huge landmark in Melbourne, and pretty much everyone in Australia will recognize what it looks like. However, not everyone knows about the secret at the top of the building. The station's third floor has been pretty much abandoned for the last few decades. When the station was first built, the third floor housed lecture halls for training staff, and some recreational spots like billiard rooms and a library. That all changed in the 1950s when this staff area was changed completely into a ballroom open for the public use. The idea behind it was that people could come in and dance the night away, and then the ballroom would close in time for the partygoers to catch the last train home. It's a pretty smart idea, but it's hard to keep a close eye on the time when you're having a good time with your friends. But the ballroom closed as the train station was to undergo renovations, and the third floor simply didn't reopen again. It stayed sealed and empty, decaying slowly with a leaky roof and rotting floors. However, the long overdue renovations are finally beginning to happen, and the old ballroom is now open for visitors once more. The ballroom is now home to an art exhibition, and you can wander around this hidden piece of Australian history to your heart's content. Cinderella's suite inside the castle at Disneyworld. Everyone knows what Cinderella's castle at Walt Disney World looks like. The beautiful building is open for tourists to pass through on their way around the Magic Kingdom, and the inside is as stunning as the outside. On the walls, a huge mosaic plays out the story of Cinderella, thousands of tiny gleaming squares making up the iconic fairy tale. But did you know that inside the castle, a secret room exists right at the top? When Walt Disney was overseeing the building of his beloved creation, he wanted somewhere for himself and his family to stay when they visited the park, and of course it had to be in the very best location. The Imagineers designed a suite especially for this purpose, inside the famous castle itself, but sadly, Walt Disney passed away in 1966 before he could ever make use of it. The room sat mostly unused, except for storage until 2006, when designers decided to actually turn it into a royal bedchamber. Today, the suite is long finished and is decorated fit for a princess. The exclusive room features beautiful stonework detailing, exquisitely finished furniture, and even a gorgeous fireplace. The room boasts an incredible ensuite bathroom, with a square hot tub set into a hidden nook, complete with mosaics on the wall. There's a lovely stained glass window in the room for the Florida sunshine to come into the room, and if you know where to look, you can see this window from the outside. Very few people have actually been able to stay inside this room, as Disney has only offered overnight visits to prize winners and, very rarely, special Disney VIPs. A hidden tennis court inside Grand Central Station. Australia isn't the only country with unusual things hidden inside its famous train stations, as America has a pretty weird railway secret of its own. Inside Grand Central Station, arguably the most famous rail station in the United States, is a secret tennis court. Everyone knows what Grand Central Station looks like. Located in New York, it has been used as a set for countless movies and TV shows, and the inside of the building is incredibly well known. One of the most famous parts of the building is the huge windows, but when you look at the building from the outside, the top portion of the famous facade is actually opening into a hidden tennis court. The Vanderbilt Tennis Court is open for public use, but given its exciting location and small size, it gets booked up very quickly, and you can be waiting weeks for a reservation. It's definitely a bit fancy and posh, but due to its secluded and mysterious location, of course it is. According to those who are familiar with the courts, sometimes people book a session just to gain access to the space to see if there really is a tennis court above the famous station, and to take lots of photos. It must be pretty amazing having a tennis training session with all the commuters below you, and the expanse of New York out the window, with nobody knowing where you are.